We are on tonight. Yes, hit that like button. Okay, subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments on the channel. As tonight, we're going to go into deep about the movie industry. Of course, an industry that I am in. But tonight, we're going to be talking about Shari Redstone and how she backed out of the Skydance deal, and how Paramount is struggling under her with these old, outdated films that Paramount continue to make. That's tonight on the Lawyers and Podcast show. Like, share, and subscribe. You're listening to the Lawyer Henderson Podcast show. Shari Redstone pulled the plug on the sale of Paramount Pictures minutes before her team was to agree to the terms with David Ellison, which is the CEO of Skydance. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Lawyer Henderson Podcast show. I hope everybody is having a good time. I know I promised you that we're going to be going to TikTok, but we're definitely on our way. We are basically also going to be getting our phone system back, and ScrewTube still have us on a double shadow ban, but they've been asking for me to get some moderators. Okay, so we'll try to get all that done, and also we'll basically be headed over to TikTok, and possibly, if everything goes good, in the next 3 months. Tonight we're talking about Paramount Pictures. Shari Redstone is the owner of Paramount, and Paramount has been basically, it's in $14 billion debt. Paramount basically, as a movie studio, as a conglomerate that used to produce great Hollywood films back in the 80s and 90s, the golden years. Movies like Top Gun Maverick and Mission Impossible, Forrest Gump, Eddie Murphy films like Beverly Hills Cops 1, 2, and 3, I think. But it is now coming out as the facts that Paramount is struggling. And Shari Redstone was trying to sell the movie studio to David Ellison, which is the CEO of Skydance. And that also he is the son of a billionaire, I think, who's passed, I think, but he was one of the owners of Oracle, the software company. So just minutes after the deal was about to be signed, Shari Redstone basically walked away. And we know how stubborn certain women are when it comes to business. Okay, but the article is going to take us there. It's going to take us there. It's going to talk about going into what went wrong. See, she had a lot of these deals between Ellison and also with Sony Pictures, right? The article here by FT.com, Rula Khalif, I hope I said his name right. I'm going to give him credit. He said here, and I quote, after more than 6 months of grueling negotiation, David Ellison thought he was on the verge of clinching the deal of a lifetime, taking over Paramount, the century-old Hollywood studio. Ellison got word on Tuesday morning in Los Angeles from an advisor to Shari Redstone, the heiress who controls the media group behind classics including The Godfather, Chinatown, and Titanic, that all the financial deals of the deal had been ironed out. At 2:30 p.m. New York time, meeting on Tuesday, Paramount Special Committee planned to greenlight the proposal for Ellison Company Skydance Media. And then came the plot twist. Minutes before the independent advisors evaluated the Skydance bid, were set to recommend it, Redstone lawyers Ropes and Gray sent a terse email to the special board committee saying the deal was dead. While it is true, we're agreed on all the materials economic terms, there are other terms outstanding, and we are basically backing away, the message said, according to the person with knowledge of the matter who paraphrased its content. Shari effectively killed a deal that was fully negotiated, fully done on all key economics 2 minutes before the special committee meeting, the person added. That was that. It was an abrupt, bitter ending to the story whose two protagonists have formed an unlikely bond. Both are children of hard-charging billionaire fathers. Redstone, 70, is the daughter of Sumner Redstone, who built the media and entertainment empire that is at the core of Paramount. A group that also includes CBS Television Network, MTV, Comedy Central, and Nickelodeon. Ellison's father, Larry, is the billionaire co-founder of Oracle, the software group. David Ellison also had deep connections to Paramount, having produced a number of blockbusters alongside the studio, including Top Gun Maverick. But in recent weeks, their bond weakened as their clash over the details of the deal, and speculation swirled that Redstone was having doubts about letting go of the family business. When it was all over, exasperated advisors said they could not recall a messier process, and observers from the Wall Street to Hollywood were left wondering what Redstone's next move would be. Paramount presented a rare opportunity for Ellison to gain control of one of Hollywood's crown jewels, rich in history, with its iconic lot on Melrose Avenue and century-old library of the film. That's I visit Paramount Pictures when I went to California, by the way. The studio has struggled to adapt to the digital era, but Ellison, 41, believed that he could fix the group mounting problems. Its once mighty, generation-defining television channels such as MTV are long-term decline, while the Paramount Plus streaming service is losing money. Paramount values the lease at $8 billion on the stock market and has more than $14 billion in debt, which was recently downgraded to junk. Investors have lost faith that the company can compete on its own, making the subject of takeover speculation for several years. Share has declined 30% this year, including nearly a 15% fall since the talks were called off. The deal was never going to be easy to pull off. Ellison's plan had two steps. First, his company would buy the National Amusement, the Redstone Control Group, which holds 77% Paramount's voting shares. The Paramount would require Skydance and Stockstill. The first crack emerged in May when Ellison Consortium, which included private equity group Redbird and KKR, as well as his family fortune, adjusted its offer after it became clear Paramount common shares were planning to fight back. Several holders of Paramount non-voting stock publicly threatened to sue if the deal went through, saying all of the value will go to Redstone, who holds the majority of the voting share. Okay, now let me stop right there. Now, mind you, she's in $14. The company's in $14 billion debt. So the deal that she was trying to make would still make her have majority of the shares in the company. And the buyers are saying, oh, hell no. I mean, how are you going to basically have the majority of the shares? You still got the company in $14 billion debt. You see how stubborn this Redstone lady is? It goes on to say here that so the Ellison team decided to pay NAI, and by a extension, Redstone herself less than originally proposed to sweeten the deal for Paramount B shareholders. After Skydance decided in May to reduce its offer to NAI from $2.5 billion to $2.3 billion, including debt, Redstone stopped talking to Ellison, said people briefed about the matter. Other involved said the decision to stop communications was out of respect for the negotiation process with the special committee. These people added that ultimately NAI agreed to lower offers of $2.3 billion. Nonetheless, Redstone has started to lose trust in Ellison following the adjusted offer, people close to her said. The same people added that despite Redstone changing perception of Ellison, the founder of Skydance was highly respected by NAI and Paramount's advisors for his integrity throughout the process. It was only after Ellison was told the deal was dead that Redstone informed him that she was upset by the reduction of the cash offer for her stake, said a person close to her. She was unhappy that she didn't get more, the person said. Now let me stop right here. Okay, this is when you gotta know when to walk away. You're in $14 billion debt, lady. Okay, your movie studio is actually bankrupt because investors are even in the stock, they're saying that you got junk stock. Okay, you got junk stock, woman. Paramount Pictures is losing money. And this Redstone lady has been stubborn as hell. Woman, take the $4 to $6 billion and walk away. But no, what she's trying to do is she's trying to negotiate to have majority of the voting power in the company, and she got the company in debt. And let's continue here. It goes on to say it was only after Ellison told and the deal was dead that Redstone informed him that she was upset about the reduction in cash offer for his stake. Said a person close to her. She was unhappy that she didn't get more, the person said. Other people close to Redstone disputed this, saying the deal collapsed because Ellison Kemp resisted calls to allow non-voting shareholders to register their consent or lack thereof for the transactions through some kind of tally. Obviously, that would have provided protection against shareholders' litigation, said another person familiar with Redstone's thinking. People close to Skydance and Paramount said Redstone decided to use the consent vote as the last-minute excuse to kill the deal. The matter has been cleared at very start of negotiation. Now, if this woman don't get a deal, the company can go bankrupt. Okay, it sort of reminded me of what happened to MGM when Kerkorian, when he died. Of course, he basically left MGM in a huge problem that it had to eventually had to sell some of its film libraries, right, to rebound from back into negotiation. Now when they was saved by, for instance, was they were saved by the company Spyglass, its CEOs. But eventually, MGM now is doing a lot of co-producing now, which is what Sony, Warner Brothers, Paramount, and others will do. But this deal that Paramount has now, and I'm going to get to it in a minute, basically, uh, Shari Redstone is not understanding what she's doing here. She wants to basically say, although the movie studio is in $14 billion debt, she still want to walk away with $6 billion or more than that. And she can't, because it would then take the studio a little bit longer to rebound. You see, it's not like the Paramount now can basically make a lot of commercial films, and that is going to basically revitalize them. Okay, and I'll get to it in a minute, hopefully. Whereas I point out here that they basically really was taking a lot of risk here. They were doing co-producing, co-financing, and risking with investors and the people who was loaning them money, and they were spending billions of, I mean, not billions, well, collectively they were spending billions, but they were asking for millions of dollars, hoping to get commercial properties of either close to $1 billion or 500 million. So this is the issue that Redstone was facing here. And people stopped watching a lot of the content because it was old and outdated. It goes on to say that there was other signs of friction as Redstone pursued a sale. In April, Redstone fired her longtime trusted chief executive, Bob Bakish, who had made little secret of his opposition to the Skydance deal and pursued talks with other potential suitors. She replaced Bakish with 3 Paramount executives who formed an office of the CEO. 4 board members also left this spring. Throughout the process, other potential bidders came and went. Paramount shares declined in December when it emerged that Bakish had met his counterpart at Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zelas. Private equity group Apollo approached Paramount twice, most recently with Sony as a partner. And this week, Edgar Brockman Jr., the Seagram herd, made an approach along Bain Capital. Multiple people who were directly and indirectly involved in the process said there was more than money in persuading Redstone to walk away from the deal with Ellison that she had initiated months ago. Several people said Redstone could not get her head around parting with the company that has been founded by her grandfather and built in a global force by her father, with whom she had fraught relationship. Redstone appeared to have warned to the turnaround plans drawn up by the 3 members of the Office of the CEO, a group many had expected to be mere placeholders until the Skydance deal was completed. But last week, they rolled out a plan to cut costs and reorganize the group. She had given them her blessing. If all Skydance is going to do is take costs out of the business and streamline the streaming business, we can just do that ourselves with the litigation risk in 12 to 18 months to get close to closing, said one of the persons familiar with the strategy. However, some investors seems baffled by the idea. It could be okay as a caretaker model, said John Roberts, chair and co-CEO of Arrow Investments, but I have not experienced anything where you have a long-term arrangement with 3 leaders. It's just not normal. Multiple people, including former and current board members, said another factor playing against Skydance was the role played by Charles Phillips, a Paramount board member who tried to torpedo the deal throughout the process. Phillips, who worked at Oracle up until 2010, was against the deal and spoke out against it frequently, said former and current board members at Paramount. He did so by putting numerous roadblocks to the deal with Skydance,
and by talking negatively about the Ellison family to Redstone, the people said. A number of people involved in the process, Phillips should have recused himself from the process as he was personally against Ellison family because of their history. Phillips did not immediately respond to the request for comment. A person close to the board disputed the assertion, saying he had deep respect for the Ellisons. Okay, now here's the thing. Now this woman, Shari Redstone, obviously she wants some of the, some take of it. Okay, and like I said earlier, she basically know that the company $14 billion. Okay, now I looked at this whole thing. I kind of like the Apollo type Sony Pictures deal. I think it was that they were talking about earlier. Apollo. I don't know about Bain's Capital because I don't like Bain's Capital. I think Bain's Capital is kind of like it kind of sketchy to me. But what I heard from them, I think I heard Bain's Capital on American Greed one day. I'm not sure, but I don't want to. But no, but the Apollo situation looked good, and I think having Sony to take part of it as well looks a little bit good as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was one of the issues there. But here's the real truth about Paramount. Paramount was used to the golden age, where in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even some parts of the year 2000, where Paramount had its golden years. You see, Blockbuster Video in Hollywood was around when Shari Langston was the CEO, when she was running Paramount Pictures. The golden days of Hollywood, where they also had that Paramount was I think on Blockbuster at the time. Those days are gone. Paramount is in bankruptcy because Paramount is stuck in the 80s and 90s. You see, Paramount missed the old golden days of making and producing films. Okay, they basically are stuck on remakes and bad remakes, and they won't let Tom Cruise stop making these Top Gun Maverick films or Mission Impossible movies and Top Gun start. These are films that, yes, young boys and young girls liked in the 80s and 90s, but we don't like that now. Okay, there's a different generation. You see, they're making these whitewashed trash TV shows as well. You see, Paramount began to start to destroy itself after they hired Brad Gray. And so when Brad Gray put them in debt, Paramount Pictures still basically was trying to find a way out, not to mention some of the lawsuits that Paramount was facing at the time. And Paramount continued to think that they were going to make a majority of white films, then go out and get budgets that was $100 million and decided that they're going to get people into the seats of the theaters to look at the same old films that they've been making from the back of the day. The movie business is changing. The movie industry is no longer the same way it was in the 80s and 90s. I was reading an article about the saving of Hollywood there, okay, where they basically asked the question, one of the articles, could Blacks and Latinos save Hollywood? Okay. Now you got to understand that by you going to Los Angeles and thinking that you're going to get a job there, the Hollywood industry is leaving Los Angeles. Okay. Los Angeles is no longer the hub for Hollywood. Okay. The industry is going to Georgia, it's going to Oklahoma, it's going to other places. But LA and New York, the high cost of living, how Hollywood is leaving the industry. People are packing their bags and they're leaving Los Angeles. Okay. They're coming to Georgia, they're coming to Oklahoma, they leave in New York as well. They're coming to other places like Arizona and other places because the studios basically, the writers were, when they went off the strike after the COVID-19 thing, basically they didn't even want to pay no more. They didn't want to pay those same writers. These writers that they were basically working with, doing these television shows, they were basically didn't want to quit their jobs. So basically, this was what a lot of them was just doing there, and they were like, "No, we want." The studio was saying, "No, we want new writers," and these people tried to hold on, to their jobs, but the studios was like, "No, we want to work with other writers. We want to work with other producers. We're trying to basically branch out." And the writers was like, "Well, you can, I will sue you if you fire us or what have you." But they didn't understand though that the industry was changing. They didn't understand that we basically, that especially the younger generation, was not uh, wanting to no longer be a part of watching movies and TV shows that really was stuck in the ages. Terminator 1 and 2. And now Paramount decided and other studios deciding to do remakes and that basically that we liked in the 80s and 90s, but we grown out of. Okay. And Paramount mixed those days. Paramount basically was stuck in those times. And this is one of the reasons why they are suffering. When Paramount make a black film, for instance, they use white directors to make these kind of stupid black classics and stuff. It's like people, families will not sit down today and watch that stuff, man. They just wouldn't. Now, let's look at what is going on in the Hollywood industry in LA and New York, besides the fact that the high cost of living basically means that there's cheaper production in other states. This article was written by marketplace.org, and it says LA and New York film sound industry jobs fell in the last year, rose in the rest of the US, you see. In other words, the movie industry has become a huge dinosaur, just like the music business had. And so these white folks don't know what's going on. They're sitting around in these boardrooms, farting up a storm, and they basically don't know what they're doing. Okay? They're only basically hiring certain types of people. The young folks, like Ellison, could change and transform Paramount if he possibly would have done like Clint Culpepper did with Screamstem when he was working and had a distribution relationship with Sony Pictures there, you see. But it's not like that anymore. Paramount Pictures basically decide to be stuck in the olden days. This article by Marketplace starts out and says that Travis Knox, longtime movie producer who teaches at Chapman University, thinks a long-term industry trend might be a play here. Generous state tax credit for film production. If the state's going to give you 30% of your bucks back, it's kind of no-brainer you have to go, he said. This trend goes back decades to when Louisiana first offered a tax credit to film studios that brought their productions to the state. dozen more states have followed suit since then, with some like Georgia becoming major players in the industry. I told y'all, these Hollywood white boys are going to follow the black man everywhere he goes. Okay. See, here's the thing. When the Los Angeles and all these other people started to kick out black people, they started to increase the rent, the mortgage and stuff in Hollywood. So black people could not afford that stuff. And now Gavin Newsom, the governor in California, he was trying to, pretend like, oh, he's gonna give black people these reparations so they can move back. Okay. Now they got these Latinos and Hispanics, and they're leaving. They're staying in Los Angeles, but they kicked the black folks out. Okay. And they kicked them out by gentrification and all that. Okay. And if you let Joe Biden tell it, Hispanics are the future of America, right? But the problem there is that Hispanics and Latinos cannot carry a major motion picture film like black people did. When Paramount released Dreamgirls back in 2006 and 7, an all-black cast, Beyonce, Jamie Foxx, and others, brought it a successful commercial. Okay, it was a successful film. Name me an Indian person, or name me a Hispanic person, or a Hispanic in a Latino film, or a Indian film that basically did that, that made a commercial success. We can talk about Black Panther and others. But the article here goes on, it says here, LA and New York City and sound industry jobs fell in the last year, rose in the rest of the US. What is it saying there? They're saying that the industry of Hollywood is leaving Los Angeles. Okay? And I told you they're going to follow the black man. Okay? If black people are going this way, are going that way, you're not going to be able to make money if you don't have black and Latinos. But here's the issue here. What Paramount and other studios want us to do is they want us to go and watch these boring white films that they're putting on in the theaters and just sit there through that crowd. Okay? And one of the people who basically responded to certain articles said, people don't want to watch the same actors that they watched in the 1980s and 90s. And Paramount basically is doing this. You see, Eddie Murphy has just now came out now with Beverly Hills Cop 4. Martin Lawrence and Will Smith is coming out to a sequel for the Bad Boy films. Tyler Perry, basically after he left Lionsgate, has already had a 50-50 deal with Lionsgate before he went to start doing television at BET. So what these white folks don't understand is that you cannot basically think that you're going to constantly make an all-white commercial film and then lie to the investors and the shareholders saying, well, we can make the money back and yet the movies are corny. Basically, they're not really selling. That's where we come in. And that's the reason why they don't want to give black filmmakers like myself money. Because as they see it, they think that they should be in control of the media. The white Jews and all these other people. Now, it goes on to say that, but it's not just government. The Expansion Film Incentive Program since 2021, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. So they've been giving out these incentives in other states, in Louisiana and other places, which then will lure movie studios and productions to other states, like I just said, Louisiana, Georgia, Texas, and all these other places where they're that Hollywood is leaving now. The article goes on to write that, but it's not just government incentives that lure film studios to other states. Many of them also have cheaper gas, food, and housing than California and New York. So, from the studio perspective, not said, as you cut back on the overall number of productions, the first thing you're going to do is stop making them in a place that they're expensive. Okay. So, mind you, this Knox is talking about Los Angeles and New York. I got a movie right now at a major studio at Sony. It takes place in Central California, and that's the 1940s, and we're going to shoot it in Oklahoma, he said. But while crews might decamp to Oklahoma or Georgia to shoot films and TV shows, some part of the industries are unlikely to leave its traditional capitals, like TV writer rooms. And the post-streaming bubble cutback is making life hard for writers trying to get work in those rooms. Everyone trying to go after the same job, essentially, said Jackie Penn, a TV writer with few staff writing credits to her name, including Disney's Turner and Hutch and the CW's 4400. Now, who still watched the CWs? I was reminded last week, when I walked into the restroom and then left my TV on, and all I hear is that, da, 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 like Entertainment Tonight. I'm like, wait a minute, do the Entertainment Tonight still come on? You see? It's like, man, they ran out of ideas here. You see? They ran out of ideas. While getting to those writers' room helped her carve a path into the industry, writers with her levels of experience, she said, just aren't in high demand right now. That's because writers with her experience are these old, outdated writers that nobody wants to want writing no more. See, the Gen Zs and the younger generation, they're not really basically wanting to look at these old TV shows that is on cable and television. Okay. A lot of shows are only looking for upper level writers. Or she said they're looking for writers working on their very first show. That leaves a gap for mid level writers like her looking to move ahead in their careers. We are the next generation of showrunners and creators, Penn said. If we don't get these opportunities, then I don't know what television is going to look like when other people retire. No. That's exactly the point. Y'all should retire because y'all making bullcrap films, which is one of the reasons it brings me back to my article on Paramount Pictures. Paramount already has dug itself in the hole anyway. You see, Paramount basically was making movies, like I said earlier, and they had these corny all white casts. And what they would do is they would tell the investors, yeah, people are going to come to the theaters. They're going to watch this. Yeah. So the investors was giving them the budget somewhere around 10, 15, 40 million dollars. And they would basically give the investors would give them the money. And they would say, okay, well, you're going to produce the film. We're going to basically release it. You got P and A, which means stand for print and advertisement, for those of y'all don't know what print and A is. And so here's the thing. You're going to spend that money on a film, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to take that movie and you're going to put it into 4,115 theaters across the country. That's 4,115, which is a typical movie release from a major studio, like that comes from a production like Sony, Paramount, Lionsgate, and all the others, right? But when they find out then that the people wasn't going to the theaters to watch this crap, and they barely are making their money back in the payments, even in foreign commercial industries. They were not making back their budget, right? So if your budget was 100 million for a huge commercial film, they were basically making only about 50 million or 60 million, and then it got the rest of the 20 million possibly in a foreign market. They still was in debt 10 million, because you have to make you're trying to make more money when you do a commercial project. You're not trying to be in debt, and you're not trying to basically, um, you want to pay for print and advertisement, and then you want to make all your money back. But what Paramount was doing, and all these other studios that went bankrupt, they were basically making, like I said, telling investors that they would be able to get money back on their commercial films, and they were just throwing movies out there to make something work, and then they would go out and get certain types of what we call low budget or independent films, giving the producers millions of dollars, especially these white boys, and these white boys were basically their movies wasn't selling. And so Paramount started this after Shari Langston, basically stepped down as the CEO. And then that's when Blockbusters closed down. And now you got the emergence of Netflix and other streaming services. And so Paramount Plus still could not basically get the kind of streaming that it needed. And it was trying to basically compete with Netflix and Hulu and all the others, Peacock TV, and they were struggling. And even they were struggling in the television industry. Eddie Murphy and Tyler Perry going to Paramount with their 50-50 deal with the studio was still not bringing a lot of black people to watch their films, because, again, Paramount was trying to hold on to the same classic films that we have seen over and over again when we were young, and back in the 80s and 90s. And this is the reason why Paramount right now is in $14 billion debt. Another article, and I'm not going to bore you with all of it, but I want to make another point here. It says, in the wake of strikes in peak TV, Hollywood workforce is shifting away from LA and New York. They are leaving. I told you they're going to go where the black man is. Okay, the black man is in Georgia right now. That's where the film industry is. So in this article by Henry Epp, we'll give him basically a credit. He starts out with an interesting point. He said employment in motion picture sound recording has grown nationwide, but share of the workers in LA and New York went from just under half at the beginning of 2023, just 1/3 earlier this year. The shift come amid major upheavals in the hit industry and the ways into which it delivers shows and movies, which are having an effect to the availability of work for the people left in the industry's historic capitals. Among them is Janie Haddett Tompkins, who described herself as a journeyman actor. She's been piecing together her career in Hollywood for almost 20 years, mostly through small roles in TV comedies like The New Night Court. You see, The New Night Court. Who watched Night Court, man? Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Modern Family. She's also done voiceover work on a regular show in American Dad and book commercials. Getting those roles mean auditioning. Prior to the beginning of the last year, she was doing that a lot. There was constant auditions. Constant audition, Haddon Tompkins said. That's because Hollywood was in something of a production bubble, chasing the success of Netflix. Tons of companies set up streaming services in recent years, banking on demand from subscribers. When the beginning of 2023 happened, it seemed like there was this chill on production and making things and buying things, she said. Like I said earlier, basically the movie industry, just like the music industry, had become a huge, big dinosaur. The distribution and making money back on profits is how many people you can put in the chairs now, and then how much you can make in streaming service. But if you're inundating people with content that they don't want, they're going to ignore it. They're going to do something else. They're going to watch old TV shows that they liked back in the days, but not the one that these Hollywood industry and people think that we like. You see, per FX count, the number of scripted shows dropped to 516 last year. Studios pulled back for a reason. According to Patrick Alder, an assistant professor at the University of Hong Kong and the head of the consulting firm Westwood Economics, which issues a recent report on the film industry workforce. First, investors started feeling the effects of rising interest rates. Wall Street just got significantly less patient with the spending by the studios on streaming platforms as soon as money started to be more expensive, Alders explained. Second, he said studios realized that the consumers might not have as much capacity as they anticipated for lots of new streaming subscription. Then, in May of last year, the Hollywood Writers Union went on strike, followed by the Actors Union. The resulting work stoppage effectively shut the industry down for 6 months. But once both unions reached contract agreement with studios, many people in the industry expected production would pick back up. Maybe not to the level of streaming bubble, but an uptick. But in LA and New York, that hasn't really happened. Actor Janie Haddon Tompkins said when studios were pumping out shows in the midst of the streaming bubble, she'd get 1 or 2 shows per week or whatever. So let me start right there. Now, it's interesting that they did not talk to somebody besides this Tompkins lady, because I would have liked to know because of course the people who you would know well in the industry, like Tom Cruise, Morgan Freeman, all those folks, of course they were still getting their money. Okay, but there was like other people who was trying to get into the industry to maintain it. They basically was not being able to produce a film, so their films were still waiting to be greenlight here. And so when they said that it was over 516 productions that was halted and stopped, that shows you how crazy that that the industry had gotten there. Okay. It goes on to say that Travis Knox, a longtime movie producer, teaches at the Chapman University, thinks a long-term industry trend might be play here. Generous state tax credit for film production. If the state is going to give you 30% of your budget back, it's kind of no-brainer. You have to go, he said. Okay? I think I've already read that. I'm sorry. So, so the article is saying there that that Hollywood is moving away, and they're shipping away from Los Angeles and New York. Paramount Pictures is stuck in the 80s and 90s. They can't, they can't seem to stop whitewashing the film industry at Paramount. They just have to have all of these white commercial films that nobody wants to see. These corny remakes and that nobody wants to look at no more. And Paramount have found itself inside a dire problem now. Then if Paramount basically knew that this was coming, Shari Redstone knew that this was coming. I told you, after they hired Brad Gray, they made several mistakes in the company. And that was kind of like a huge problem for them, I should say. Now, if you think that I'm not telling the truth about the problems with Paramount, well, just listen to one of the top advisors to Disney CEO. See, here's the thing. Sony Pictures know what they're doing. Okay. When they have a label, like every film studio, every major film studio have labels that attach to them. Paramount still have, I think, used to have Paramount Vantage. I'm going to get to that in a minute. And so what happened is that Sony Pictures, they have Sony Pictures Classic. Also Warner Brothers used to have Warner Brothers Independent, but they closed that down. They used to have New Line. They closed that down. So these movie studios had a lot of major small, well, not a lot of them, but they had a few labels. So Sony, through, Screams Gym, which was ran by Clint Culpepper at the time, basically was letting these black film directors make their movies under their umbrella. And they was breaking in a lot of money, right? Paramount, under Paramount Vantage, didn't have really actually no black film directors. I mean, they had a few, but you didn't know them, right? They had Eddie. They always worked with Eddie Murphy, but Eddie Murphy is not funny no more. He's getting old. He's in his 60s now. So Paramount really didn't have anybody, and so when they got Tyler Perry to do the BET to save that television station or what have you, it was still not able to help bring your black and your Latino, your urban content in there. So what did the article say? The article asks, could black and Hispanics or Latinos save Hollywood? No. You can save Hollywood if you get new talent in there, new fresh faces, new face film producers like myself here. But here, if you think that this is going to be even more desperate for Shari Redstone, who's already bankrupt Paramount, listen to this article on Yahoo Finance by Brian Zossi. It states that Paramount is impaired assets with a broken deal process, according to top advisors at Disney CEO. Paramount future looks as uncertain as the ending to a blood and guts horror movie. I would say Paramount as a company is quite impaired at this point, Kendall Media co-founder Kevin Mayer told Yahoo Finance at the Cannes Lions Festival this week. Mayer is credited with leading the launch of Disney Plus and serving as close advisor to Disney CEO Bob Iger on succession planning. He was also briefly the CEO of TikTok after leaving the Mickey Mouse company. Maybe it will resurface, but it has a broken deal process, and the business is not doing all that well, added Mayer. I wonder why Paramount is not doing all that well. Oh, let's see. Let's stop there. They got these white boys that is basically the CEO. Let's see. We got the president CEO Paramount Media Network, Chris McCarthy. President CEO, Content Officer George Cheeks. Non-executive chairwoman of Paramount Global, Shari Redstone, and Brian Roberts. Now, do any of these people look like they even talk to a young person? I mean, I know y'all can't see them, but just by their namesake, you see why this studio is suffering now. Look at these people are out of touch with reality. They are out of touch with the younger generation. They are. Just by looking at these folks. The article goes on to say that they reported reasons for the change of the heart vary. They range from Redstone's being unable to sell her father's Sumter Redstone legacy to Ellison billionaire father Oracle founder Larry Ellison swinging his sharp elbows around in the final days of negotiation. Redstone was also reportedly concerned about litigation risks stemming from the tied-up Skydance. David Ellison and Skydance are great guys, really smart guys. I am very surprised that Shari at the end didn't decide to take that option, Mayer said. I think she'll hopefully figure out what do we do here. But as of right now, it's a big strange problem. This comes as Warner Brothers Discovery, WBD, and joint effort from Apollo Global Management and Sony were also brushed off. The company now re-entered the tumultuous water after ousting former CEO Bob Bakish in the late April and currently being led by Brian Roberts. Now, here's the thing about this whole issue here. This woman, Shari Redstone, got the company in $14 billion debt. $14 billion. Don't you know how many commercial successful films she has to do? The question now is with these Top Gun movies and with this movie that she got out with Mission Impossible. They just did the new Terminator film. I don't know who was the distributor of that, but she's now trying to invest deeper into doing like $50 million to $100 million budget, hoping to get at least $500 million back on sale in commercial success, and it's not working. These are classic films that people are no longer wanting to see. Yes, Terminator 2. Yes, the Terminator was a good film in the 80s and 90s, but nobody is a fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger no more. You understand? Yes, Tom Cruise is a good actor, but nobody wants to see Top Gun anymore. You understand? These are classics that people are getting tired of. You see, the Gen Zs are more willing to look at a YouTube program than go and watch a film, a streaming show on Paramount Plus, or a streaming site that inundate them with corny characters. In some instances, they basically inundate now with these LGBT content that they're putting in blackened films. You see, so we have to understand what is the issue here. How can you basically move away from this woman basically trying to negotiate a deal? At the same time, she don't know if she wants to sell the film studio, but then she's in bankruptcy, and she basically got the studio bankrupt and want more than $4 billion or $6 billion. She wants to have the majority of the vote, and she's the reason why the studio is in debt. See what I'm saying? This is a stubborn woman here. But that's fine, because when we come back, I'm going to basically tell you to compare a film that I just recently wrapped up versus a film that Paramount gave $4 billion. I'm sorry, not $4 billion. Sorry, $4 million to. Not $4 billion, $4 million. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Lawyer Henderson Show. You got me for 30 more minutes. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. I'm your host, Lawyer Henderson. We've been talking about Paramount Pictures. It is in bankruptcy, or literally in bankruptcy right now. And the studio basically cannot cannot basically find, well, the owner, which is the daughter of the late Sumner Redstone, has backed up out of, I think, 2 or 3 deals already. She basically already backed up out of 3 deals because she wants the majority of the vote, even though she and the former CEO, Bob Bakish, along with many others there at Paramount, put the studio into $14 billion debt. That's $14 billion. You understand? And white people don't understand something about the younger generation. The younger generation, which is growing up now, are not familiar with classics, films. They're not familiar with these films that we raised up on. See, back in the 80s and 90s, we were raised on watching The Terminator. We were raised on watching, Mission Impossible, Forrest Gump. We basically was raised on those films. We were basically whitewashed back in the days to watch those movies. But the time has changed now. The younger generation are on YouTube now, are they on TikTok more? And if they watch a film, they're gonna most likely watch it either on YouTube or they're gonna go to a streaming service like Tubi and other places. Thank you for joining us today here on the Lawyers and Podcast Show. We're talking about billionaire daughter Shari Redstone. Her father had left her the control of the family business. And she basically got Paramount Pictures right now in $14 billion debt. $14 billion. And this woman still wants the majority of the vote. This woman is stubborn at this point. $14 billion. That's the billion with a B. And this woman is backing up out of she backed up out of the Apollo and the Baines Capital deal. She's backed up out of the Apollo and the Sony Pictures deal. And now she's backed up out of deal with Skydance. And what she need to do is let this 41-year-old Ellison come in and tell her about how and what the younger generation wants, because the future of television and films is going to come to the younger people that basically is supposed to, to whatever content they want to see now. But like I said earlier, Paramount is stuck in its ways. And those ways is to still think that it's in the golden age of the 80s and 90s when Shari Redstone was running Paramount Pictures. And then, imagine that back in the 80s and 90s where you jump into your car with your boyfriend or your husband or your wife and you went and rent out a movie from Blockbusters or Hollywood Video. We're not in those times anymore. We're just not. And Paramount thought that it was going to continue to sell films using an old model. And as I said, when they made the mistake, and all due respect, because I know Brad Gray, the former CEO of Paramount,
who they hired back in 2005 or six. I know he's now dead, but he basically began to bankrupt the studio. And now uh, Paramount dealing with a lot of lawsuits and stuff. It basically came to the point where the studio was just not doing good. That Warner Brothers and Sony Pictures and Universal, they know a little bit what they're doing. Fox, 20th Century Fox, which is actually now changed their name to 20th Fox or whatever, they basically is doing okay as well. Remember MGM, as I said earlier, went through bankruptcy, okay? It had to rely upon spyglass in order to maintain the industry here. But we're talking about Paramount. I didn't know that Donald Sutherland died yesterday. He was 88. Hollywood actor Don Sutherland. That just came across the news feed, Hollywood Reporter. So here's the thing about this. We basically are talking about how stubborn Shari Redstone is. This woman is wanting the majority of the vote, and she got the studio in $14 billion debt. Now, Paramount Pictures, for a very long time, made high successful commercial films. And then, as like I said earlier, they wanted to read that article, Can Black and Latino Save Hollywood? No, we're not going to go to the to the theaters to watch these boring ass films that you white folks continue to produce. You got to basically urbanize your films now. Okay? You got to be able to understand what people really want when it comes to making films. You see, filmmakers like myself, we basically lack all the budget and funding in a sense. But see, these white boys, they get to get money on their signatures and they still make these crappy films. And what they'll do is they'll tell these investors that they got all of these people that wants to watch their movies and their TV shows. And then the investors get upset and now they have to shield back their productions, you see. And then they'll try to create some crisis so they can blame that crisis and so that the investors, won't get upset with them. Because sometimes when you borrow money, a lot of these investors don't play. Boy, they'll find you somewhere dead in some car somewhere, mess with somebody's money, So you have to be very careful. You see, I really don't think Brad Gray died of cancer, by the way. You know what I mean? I don't think he died of cancer, man, because he bankrupt Paramount. He actually the one started to bankrupt Paramount. I don't think he died of cancer. I think that they did that man in, man. I'm telling you. So you have to be very careful in running a studio. You have to be very careful also in asking for millions of dollars if you can't make the money back for the investor, because the investors will get upset with you. Okay, they'll come after you now. Okay, You've been listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show, ladies and gentlemen. And when we come back on our music break, if you think that Paramount is going bankrupt because the industry is leaving Hollywood, Los Angeles, and New York, if you think that they basically, as this one person has stated, that they basically have an impaired asset that they could not basically rebound from, that's not only the reason. When we come back from the music break again, I'm going to start telling you the real reason Paramount is in debt and is headed for bankruptcy here. We'll be right back.
Shari Redstone is who we're talking about. She is the owner of Paramount Pictures. She's facing a situation of being indecisive, of trying to sell the movie studio to. She's just backed out of a deal here, and I wanted to make this point to drive it home. Because we finna get ready to wrap up this show. Paramount Pictures was making bad deals. They were making bad deals, even in their co-financing situations. Certain types of producers, I think, was threatened to sue them. Paramount basically did something that was foolish, and we're going to begin to talk about what they did. On January 23, 2011, the Hollywood Reporter basically announced something that I found myself as a filmmaker shocking, right? I said, look, Sundance, while Paramount paid $4 million for the movie Like Crazy, Paramount has inaugurated Sundance Fest dealing with the purchase of Drake Doremus Like Crazy. The company, which had executive Adam Goodman and Matt Broadley in Park City to see the film, paid $4 million for worldwide rights, according to sources. Now, this right here is one of the reasons that Paramount is in bankruptcy. Paramount don't believe that Latinos and Blacks can have a real down-to-earth love story, right? They only believe that white folks can. The article writes that Paramount inaugurated Sundance Fest dealing with the purpose of Drake Doremus Like Crazy in the early hours of Sunday morning. The company, which had executive Adam Goodman and Matt Burley in Park City to the film, paid $4 million for worldwide rights, according to sources. Anton Yelkin, Felicity Jones, and Jennifer Lawrence star in a most improvised romantic drama about two students who fall deeply in love only to be separated because of visa violations. She's from England. Their struggle to maintain a connection while embracing other relationships and in each other repeatedly sustain the drama of the film. Okay. The Doremus and Dutch bag collaborator Ben York Jones wrote the script, right? On Friday night to say hello, but Paramount ultimately sealed the deal with its strongly bid and yet to be finalized in P&A commitment. Now, remember I said P&A was print and advertisement. The company, which hadn't played much of a part in festival acquisition since its Paramount Vantage division, was sidelined several years ago. And what did I say earlier? I said that every major studio have a label that brings in independent or small to media commercial films. What did Paramount do before 2011? It stopped its Paramount Vantage label. Okay? What it says, the company, which hasn't played much of a part in festival acquisition since its Paramount Vantage division was sidelined several years ago, likely see the appeal in the youthful cast and the realistic portrayal of young love. It must have expressed interest to the producers and agents pre-fest,
as Paramount executives in Los Angeles were given a screening of the film simultaneously to its Park City premiere. You see, now Paramount knew that they were doing some stupid, idiotic, crazy stuff. They were basically taking movies and they were negotiating deals to try to rush sales, even in the sense of right at the time that it got rid of its label partner or its label's daughter or son, Paramount Vantage. Now, I'm going to tell you something about this Paramount film. And this is how you know that white privilege exists. A black filmmaker like myself, of course, let me just use one of the, Davion and Michaela, just wrap that up. Paramount bought a film that was low budget, right? The same kind of equipment that they use for this movie like crazy, we use for the film Davion and Michaela that we just wrapped up. Okay, it just needs to be edited. So white privilege means that these white boys and white girls can go to a major studio, get $4 million at a film festival, and then a black person like myself who used the same equipment, the camera, same thing, who might be able to bring a diverse audience of Black and Latinos, right? And even some white folks who may want to watch Davion and Michaela, we can't get the $4 million. And that's how racist Paramount was. When it came time to basically, they even know on their hands as to how many black people that they basically hire as filmmakers, writers, and directors. You got Eddie Murphy, who has ran out of saying things funny, and you got Tyler Perry, who did everything at Lionsgate that he can no longer basically keep up at Paramount when y'all gave him the 50-50 deal. You see what I'm saying? I'm not hating on him. I'm just saying that basically he got the same deal that he had at Lionsgate. He basically, people wanted him. I mean, even though he got on into TV and still making the films, well, hell, he could have stayed at Lionsgate. And so at that point, Lionsgate and Warner Brothers did a lot of things during this time that was very important. They had a lot of small labels. They decided to get rid of the labels and only have a small label. So the only person that really is doing that is Sony Pictures, Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers had New Line Cinema. So remember when New Line Cinema, it produced a lot of Ice Cube's Friday films. Okay, Warner Brothers is still doing a lot of great films. So if a writer or a producer is working with Warner Brothers, they're really making their money, if they don't go on strike. Universal is the same way. But Paramount is losing money. Paramount owe money to writers, producers, actors, directors. Paramount is in $14 billion debt because it made a lot of stupid decisions. When they do make a black film, they make these black films like black people are in the 1950s and shit. It's like, what you doing? Nobody wants to see that crap, Paramount. You understand? Nobody wants to see a film in 1950 that you're trying to dress us up like we're back in the day, and you think black people are going to go out and watch that stuff. Now, that may have worked in the year 2000 with Dreamgirls because it did have an all-black cast, but we're talking about something that's very important when you don't have any kind of appeal to your new generation of audience here. And this is what Paramount lacks. And this is the reason why that guy who was the advisor of Disney CEO Bob Iger said earlier, what I said mentioned earlier. What he say? It has impaired access, that it cannot no longer compete with Netflix. Netflix has taken over Sony and Lionsgate. Okay? But they better watch out for us at Cinema City Pictures because we're on the ground ourselves. I'm just saying. But that's the reason why Paramount is in trouble. They're giving too much money away from projects that cannot stand on its back of making the money back in sales. Why? Because again, like I said, Paramount likes to whitewash the films that they do. They like to make crappy classic films that nobody wants to see anymore. And this is the reason why I agree with the advisor there. They have an impaired asset, and they're not going to be able to get out of debt no time soon. And that's the reason then why this Shari Redstone woman is panicking. She wants to then say that I'm going to sell the deal, but I just don't want to sell this family business, but I still want the majority of the voting power. No, you take the $6 billion or $10 billion or whatever they're giving you, and you get the hell out of the way, lady, and you sell the studio. Okay? You're hiring people, giving them higher salaries, and they're not maintaining the financial forecast and the studio itself. They're bankrupting the studio. People don't want, you're invested into big classic films and high budget commercial films that you basically want to do remakes of the 1980s and 90s on. You're done out here. Let Lionsgate, Apollo, Skydance take over, and so that they can basically rebound the studio or go into bankruptcy like MGM. Okay? Your choice, Shari Redstone. You've been listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Don't forget to like, share, and leave your comments. Thank you for listening.